Why no miracles today? Occasionally, in a debate with an atheist, between an atheist and a religious believer, the atheist will say that if only God would appear to him in bodily form on the stage, then he would believe. After all, it should be very easy for him, that is, for God. He did wondrous signs in the Bible, according to the Bible, so why don't we see such signs today? In my subscription inbox for YouTube, there is a video from a debate with Bill Craig in which an audience member asks just such a question: why no miracles today? Perhaps you yourself have asked this question. Surely it would be easier to believe in God if he were more visible. Perhaps he is only silent because he is not really there at all. This topic is thus apropos for us to examine anew. Before we start asking questions about miracles, though, we need to get it clear in our minds precisely what miracles are. David Hume held to what is perhaps the most popular understanding, or rather misunderstanding, of miracle. He wrote that a miraculous event is a breaking, if it were to occur, it would be a breaking of the natural law, the laws of science. And we certainly wouldn't expect to see miraculous occurrences today if they are impossible by definition. The natural law in Hume's understanding was apparently unbreakable. But, as I said, Hume was not right in his understanding of a miraculous sign. What is the correct understanding? I submit to you that a miraculous sign is just that. It's a sign. And what is a sign? Well, signs are pointers. They point to something else. A traffic sign, for example, points beyond itself, beyond the metal and the paint, to traffic laws. Yield to pedestrians, or what have you, depending on the sign. Slow, school zone, stop, and so on. And we know what biblical signs or miracles point to by consulting the biblical text. In the New Testament, the main miracle is the resurrection of Jesus. While there were certainly many other miracles reported there, that is the central miraculous occurrence. And what of the Old Testament? The central miracle of the Old Testament can only be the deliverance of the Jewish slaves from Egypt. There was a series of 10 plagues according to the Pentateuch, according to the Torah, culminating in the first Passover. That was the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn in the Passover. After the Passover, Israel was expelled from Egypt by Pharaoh. Then we see the parting of the Red Sea, the provision of the manna, and so on. All of these events either lead up to or follow upon the cardinal event of salvation history within the entire Old Testament. Again, the deliverance from Egyptian bondage. Once we reflect upon the significance of the miraculous within the Old and New Testament contexts, the Exodus from Egypt and the resurrection of Jesus, we will be in a better position to discern what the import of the miraculous is, what it's pointing to. The Bible itself gives us a definition of miracle in other words. The prospects of the potential abolition of the peculiar institution went over in Egypt no better than it went over in the old American South. Moses goes in to see Pharaoh. He tells him that he's been talking with God, and God has told him, Moses, that Pharaoh is to let the slaves, the Israelite slaves, go. But Pharaoh didn't believe in the Jewish God. Moreover, it could be that Moses was delusional, for all Pharaoh knew, and had not really been talking with God at all. How would the king of Egypt know for sure? Moreover, how would the Jews know that Moses was really speaking for God when he said that they were about to be delivered. And that is where the signs come in. The signs performed by Moses, or better, by God through Moses, were signs that Moses really was the mouthpiece of God, the true God, that is, and God was not just putting on the Ritz, in the words of the famous Rich Mullins song. Moses had his staff to part the Red Sea with, or call down plagues on the Egyptians, turning the dust into lice and so on. The signs and wonders performed by Moses had a functional value. They got Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. But they are more than that, more than just functional. They point beyond the function to the fact that Moses was called to be a prophet of God. They make it clear to all that Moses was the representative of the living and true God, that his words and deeds were in place of God and should be taken seriously. Talk is cheap. It's very easy to say that God has told you to do this or to do that, but it is very hard without God's intervention to part the Red Sea. Miracles validate the message of the prophet. In this case, of course, the prophet is Moses himself. Well, then we turn to the New Testament. Jesus is in a place, some people ask him for a sign so that they can believe that he is the Messiah. And Jesus tells them that a sinful generation looks for a sign, but no sign will be given them. No sign that is apart from the sign of Jonah. That is to say, the validation of Christ comes from his resurrection. God doesn't leave us in the dark. Anyone can claim to be the Messiah, but we know who the real Messiah is because of the resurrection. Jesus could have been sent by God or not, but we can know for sure by his rising from the dead. When Jesus left in the ascension, after he was crucified, rose again the third day, went up to the right hand of the Father, when he left earth, he passed on the torch of ministry to his 12 apostles. As his official representatives, they would work miracles just like he did, and just like the Old Testament prophets did prior to the time of Christ. We know that we can trust the Bible then because of the miracles performed by Jesus and his prophets and apostles. The authors of the Bible authenticated their message by the working of signs and wonders. So that is what a miracle is. An amazing work of God, which only God could do, by which he places his stamp of approval on the message of the biblical writers. But the Bible is complete. Revelation, the book of Revelation, was written by John in about 90 A.D., and that is the last book of the Bible. Prophecy focusing on the coming of the Messiah in the Old Testament, but Jesus already came, so there's no more prophesying about Jesus later coming in the future because he's already come in our past. Already came in our past. And the apostles were themselves eyewitnesses to the resurrection, and they've all died out. So there's no more apostles today because there's no more witnesses of the resurrection today. That is something that they died out about 100 A.D., so we know that there's not apostles today. So if there's no more prophets or apostles, who's left to speak for God? Nobody. The Bible is in that sense a closed book. It is finished. The upshot of all this is that there is no reason for God to perform miracles now, and we'll take that up in part 2. Thank you.